You remember the rhubarb patch that lasted forever. It worked fine, year after year, feeding families for decades. Perennial edibles like rhubarb and asparagus could keep producing for 30 years. Sometimes they lasted 50 years from one planting. Now nurseries rarely offer them. The shelves are crowded with annuals instead. That memory is accurate. The change wasn't random. It followed real economic pressures and shifting consumer tastes. So, what happened to those plants that never seemed to quit? Extension agents have tracked rhubarb beds that kept producing for 20 years, sometimes more. In cooler regions, gardeners have reported the same patch thriving for half a century. These aren't just stories. Extension bulletins confirm rhubarb's long run. This happens when soil stays rich and crowns are spaced right. On some old farmsteads, rhubarb plants still push up stalks each spring. Even after decades without tending, they keep growing. Asparagus holds a similar record. University guides mention beds lasting 15 to 30 years in the same spot. They deliver spears every spring. Proper care helps, but even neglected rows often keep going for decades. Perennial herbs have their own records. Horseradish can outlast a generation. Chives or lovage come back year after year with little help. These numbers match what many remember from family gardens. That's what I remember from my own garden. You might wonder what happened to these plants. Plants seem to last forever, always ready for another season. The lifespans weren't marketing claims. They were proven year after year by gardeners and extension agents alike. They worked fine for generations. Now it makes sense why they faded from stores. Maintaining those long-lived beds required steady hands and a clear routine. Gardeners divided rhubarb and asparagus crowns every 5 to 10 years. It wasn't guesswork. Extension bulletins from the 1950s explained the timing. Early spring, before new growth, was the usual window. A sharp spade and a steady grip turned old crowns into new starts. Dividing kept plants vigorous, prevented overcrowding, and fed the same patch for decades. Families often set aside a morning for this work, passing the rhythm down generations. Mulching was the other key step each fall. A thick layer of straw or leaves covered the crowns. The mulch protected crowns from winter cold, held moisture, and suppressed weeds. Extension agents recommended at least 2 inches, more in colder regions. Over time, the mulch broke down, feeding soil and keeping plants healthy. These routines didn't just keep beds alive, they kept them thriving. Yearly care paid off for decades, and knowledge spread neighbor to neighbor. Each division shared the skill one step at a time. May always knew when it was time. 5 years would pass. She would pull out the old calendar, marking a Saturday in early spring. The ground still held a chill, but the frost was gone. Grandchildren gathered in boots and thick sweaters. May led the way, spade in hand. She showed how to slice through the earth just outside each rhubarb crown. The roots came up heavy, tangled with years of growth. She would tap the soil loose and point to the fat, healthy buds. Those were the ones to keep. Each crown was split with care. She made sure every piece had at least one strong bud. Each piece also kept a chunk of root. The youngest learned to spot the difference between a good division and a weak one. Hands got muddy, laughter mixed with the work. Divided crowns were carried to new spots or shared with neighbors. The rhythm became tradition, a family memory tied to the smell of spring soil. Buying new plants rarely crossed anyone's mind. The garden renewed itself, just as May had taught, season after season. May's neighbors always knew when spring division was coming. She'd call across the fence asking if anyone needed a new rhubarb start. By noon, a few extra crowns sat in a wheelbarrow at end of her drive. Folks from 2 streets over might stop by, knowing there'd be plenty. One year, May's rhubarb ended up in 3 different yards before the lilacs bloomed. That's how these plants spread. One healthy crown became food for several families. Asparagus worked the same way. A neighbor might dig up a clump, split it, and hand a bundle a newspaper. The exchange wasn't formal. It happened over morning coffee or while checking the mail. Sometimes a block-wide swap would fill an afternoon, with everyone trading divisions, cuttings, and starts. Local garden columns in the newspaper listed who had what to give away. The sharing kept old varieties alive and tied the neighborhood together. These plants weren't just food. They were a reason to talk, visit, and help other
The system worked outside any store. The supply chain was fences and a promise to return favor next year. Tom runs his finger down the ledger, pencil tapping on each column. The numbers are tight. For every $100 that comes in, 90 goes right back out. Labor, heating, water, rent, and insurance take the rest. That leaves just $10, sometimes even less, as actual profit. Most nurseries work on margins between 4 and 10%. It's not much room for error. One cold spring, one slow weekend, and the books can tip red. The business depends on steady, repeat sales. Annual bedding plants fill that need. Customers come back every spring buying new flats of petunias, marigolds, and tomatoes. Each season is a fresh start, a new sale. Perennial vegetables work differently. A gardener buys a rhubarb crown or a bundle of asparagus roots once. That plant might keep producing for 20 years or more. The customer doesn't need another for a long time. For the nursery, that's a one-time sale, not a steady stream. The math favors annuals. They move fast, clear the benches, and keep cash flowing. Perennials take up space for months, sometimes years, before they pay off. In a business where every square foot counts and every spring matters, product selection becomes a survival strategy. The numbers explain why the shelves look the way they do. Rows of petunias, impatiens, and marigolds stretched under plastic arches bright as Easter eggs. In the early 1970s, polyethylene greenhouses changed the nursery business overnight. Polyfilm was cheap, easy to install, and could cover a large area. For the first time, small nurseries could grow thousands of annuals without glass costs. That meant benches filled with color, ready for spring shoppers. Tom remembers the first season he switched from glass to poly. Suddenly, he could offer flats of blooming plants weeks before the last frost. Customers lined up for instant gardens, color in a tray, ready to plant. The old rhythm of waiting for perennials faded. People wanted results that weekend, not years later. By 1978, reports showed annuals made up around 60% of spring sales. The numbers told the story. Annuals moved fast, sold out, and needed replacement each year. Perennials sat on the bench, waiting for a buyer who might not return for decade. Poly greenhouses made it possible, but demand was the real engine. Shoppers wanted quick color, and nurseries delivered. The market shifted with the times. Rows of petunias and marigolds became the new standard. Perennial vegetables quietly slipped to the back of the catalog. What used to be a once-in-a-lifetime purchase became an annual spring ritual. The business changed, and the shelves changed too. The plants still last decades. The choices just shifted around them. Today, patience is rare, instant results dominate, but perennial roots remain, waiting for those who remember. Our gardens may change, but the value of what endures never disappears. Thanks for watching, and for keeping those memories alive.